Think of those great civilizations on different continents of the world, with massive, impassable oceans between them, unaware of each other's existence. One rose in the deserts, the other in the jungles. Yet, despite being thousands of miles apart, they all built similar pyramids reaching toward the sky. They were all obsessed with the stars and astronomy to an incredible degree. And they all told stories of humanity being destroyed by a massive flood, stories that were strikingly similar to one another. How is it that the civilizations established in Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the Maya region of Central America remind us of each other so surprisingly in certain aspects? How did these people, for whom communication was impossible, share the same architectural code? Is this just an incredible coincidence, or is there a lost connection lying deep in history, beneath the ground, that we have yet to discover? Today, we are descending into the greatest obsession of archaeology, that dark common ground of the ancient world. To solve the mystery, we first need to briefly get to know these three major players on the chessboard. In Africa, on the lands given life by the Nile River, the Egyptian civilization rose. They went down in history with their centrally connected kings, the pharaohs, their massive pyramids, and their flawless obsession with life after death. When we go a bit further east, to the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia, we see the Sumerians. They established city-states, built ziggurats reaching for the sky, and invented the greatest discovery in human history, writing. When we completely change direction, cross the giant ocean, and go to the dark forests of Central America, the Mayans appear before us. They performed bloody rituals in the shadow of massive temple pyramids and reached an inconceivable level in astronomy and calendar calculations. Our first main idea is very clear. These three legendary civilizations were distant from each other not only by thousands of miles but also by time periods spanning thousands of years. The first major similarity that shocks you when looking at these three civilizations from the outside and starts all the conspiracy theories on the internet is the pyramids. The perfect triangle with the smooth surface of Giza in Egypt, the massive, layered ziggurats of the Sumerians in Mesopotamia, and the stepped temple pyramids of the Mayans in the depths of America. Why did they all choose the same form? Why did they all build massive structures climbing toward the sky, upward, by bringing together thousands of tons of stone? Why did the tombs of kings or sacred centers always have to be at the highest point? This similarity incredibly strengthens the idea that humanity fed from a single source. But we must establish a very important balance here. The fact that two structures look similar in form from the outside certainly does not mean they are products of the same culture. When we take the matter out of romantic conspiracy theories and put it under the microscope, we see that there are actually huge differences. Yes, monumental architecture, sky-oriented sacred areas, and a powerful priestly class governing society are common to all of them. However, when we get into the details, the nature of the situation changes. Egyptian pyramids are smooth and filled with secret burial chambers inside. In other words, they are houses of death. Mayan pyramids, on the other hand, are centers of life and faith, accessed by stairs, with temples of the living at the top, where sacrificial rituals were performed. The ziggurats of the Sumerians were used as both a temple and a grain storehouse. Furthermore, the geography, religious understanding, and the eras in which these three civilizations were built are completely different from each other. In other words, beneath that massive similarity on the surface, there are actually very different souls with nothing in common. If you were an ancient Egyptian, a Sumerian, or a Mayan priest, your greatest god would certainly be the sky. There was a very magical but also practical reason why all three civilizations were obsessed with astronomy and star observations. The cycles of the sun, the movements of the stars, and the equinoxes did not just mean watching the sky for them. It meant direct survival. If you do not know when the Nile River will overflow or when the corn seeds will be planted in the ground, your entire empire dies of hunger. This is why the Egyptians aligned their pyramids perfectly with the stars. The Sumerians recorded celestial events on massive clay tablets with cuneiform script. The Mayans produced their famous and eerily complex calendars that could calculate even thousands of years into the future. For ancient people, the sky was not a matter of curiosity, but a massive and divine clock through which they read time. The similarities are not limited to architecture and stars. One of the greatest common points of these three civilizations is that they invented writing or turned it into a massive system. The Sumerians carved clay tablets with cuneiform script. The Egyptians wrote their sacred hieroglyphs on temple walls and papyri. The Mayans carved their logographic systems, consisting of complex symbols, onto stone monuments. Their letters, languages, and symbols definitely do not resemble each other. None could read the other. However, they all discovered the same great philosophical truth. If you want to rule a massive kingdom, collect taxes, pass down religious rules from generation to generation, and hold power in a monopoly, you must carve that information onto stones. Writing was the greatest weapon in the hands of priests and kings in all of these civilizations. This is the detail that truly shocks the viewer and fuels the lost origin theories. The flood. In the famous Sumerian epic of Gilgamesh, we read that terrifying story where the gods destroyed humanity with a massive flood and only one man survived by building a boat. In some Mayan and Aztec cosmologies on the other side of the world, there are also massive cycles of disaster ending with floods. When people read this, they naturally reach the following conclusion. This means they really came from a common ancestor and they all carried that great flood in their memory. However, scientists offer a very logical explanation here. All of these civilizations were established around massive rivers and ocean coasts. The water overflowing and destroying the entire city was the greatest trauma and the greatest real fear experienced by the people of ancient times. In other words, similar disaster tales are not a result of a direct common theme, but a result of the common fears of people living by the water. Despite all rational explanations, that conspiracy theory in our minds just won't stay quiet. Could they have really made contact in some way? According to possible contact theories, perhaps there was a lost civilization with the technology to cross oceans that we do not know about yet. Perhaps ancient sailors setting out from Africa reached the American continent and taught the people there how to build pyramids or read the stars. Although this cultural diffusion theory sounds very exciting, we must balance the situation. For now, there are no reputable archaeological findings of a direct, proven, and strong contact between the Egyptian, Sumerian, and Mayan civilizations. We only have theories and similarities before us. The answer is human psychology itself. The human brain does not like chaos. We want to see large patterns between unrelated events, complete the missing pieces, and connect everything to a single explanation. In psychology, the tendency to see a meaningful connection between events that have no connection to each other is called apophenia. We love the idea of forgotten ancient knowledge or a lost continent. Because this thought adds a sense of fantastic adventure to our boring and ordinary world. The idea that we as humanity have a forgotten common past gives us a mysterious sense of belonging. It is precisely because of this apophenia, this obsession with seeking patterns, that lost civilization theories like the legendary Atlantis or the continent of Mu become popular again in every century. Many people claim that pyramids and astronomical knowledge spread to the world from this lost continent, and that the Egyptians and Mayans were actually students of the same master race. Documentaries are filmed, books sell millions. This philosophy is quite attractive, but we have to make that very clear and ruthless scientific distinction here. It is one thing to produce interesting and exciting ideas, it is quite another to present those ideas as a proven historical fact. Atlantis is a wonderful mythology, but it is not yet history. So, what is the secret? Why do they resemble each other? Perhaps the answer is much simpler than conspiracies. Humanity is an equation. If you start farming in one place, your population increases. If the population increases, you have to build a city. If you build a city, you have to create a central state and religious system to set the rules. You need a calendar to plant crops, and for the calendar, you look at the stars. And if you want to build a monumental building to show the power of your king, the only engineering way to stack the stones, which are the only material you have under the conditions of that time, without them collapsing, is to build a pyramid. In short, different people facing the exact same problems produced the exact same practical solutions. Similar problems simply created similar architectures. Perhaps the truly chilling thing in this story is not the existence of a secret communication network or aliens between continents. The truly surprising thing is the common tendency of the human mind. No matter where you go in the world, no matter how isolated you live, human nature always works the same way. Those primitive people looked at the vastness of the sky, they were afraid of the darkness, they desired to live after death, they tried to establish order for themselves against the chaos of nature, and they built massive stones that would stand for thousands of years to defeat time. And they did this in the most distant jungles and deserts of the world, completely unaware of each other, with the exact same motivation. Seeing that a human is a human everywhere, sharing the same fears and the same divine dreams, is much more fascinating and a truer miracle than finding a lost continent. Behind the sudden resurgence of these debates today lies new generation technology. Archaeology, once done with picks and shovels, has now been replaced by satellites and LiDAR systems, which are laser scanning technologies. Thousands of miles of ancient Mayan roads, which would be impossible to find by walking in the dense forests of Central America, are discovered in a single day thanks to LiDAR scans. Every newly discovered massive city shows that ancient people had a much more advanced and organized network than we thought. Technology is making us redraw the map of the past, and this makes it feel like the mystery is not ending, but just beginning. When we cross all these oceans and unite the temples, we are left with a massive puzzle. A stonemason in Egypt and a priest in the Mayan forests never shook hands. They did not sit at the same table and write the same codes. However, both acted under the same sky, with that same desire for infinity given by being human. Perhaps the real question we should ask is not whether these civilizations are secretly connected. The real question is why humanity, in the most distant corners of the world, always looked at the same sky and dreamed similar divine dreams. If even after thousands of years, all those monuments have turned into ruins but still make us think so deeply, there is a very clear truth. Perhaps the real legacy ancient civilizations left us is not those massive stone structures, but the eternal and unanswered questions they left behind. So, what do you think? Do you think the Egyptians and the Mayans built the same thing just by coincidence, or does humanity really have a forgotten common past? Share your theories with us in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to continue exploring the secrets of the past.